Hey, everybody, is I Hope Giselle, Hope the Skies, and I'm coming at you promptly at 11 o'clock Central because we start on time over here, okay? So today I have a really dope guest by the name of Consciously. And I just want to give y'all some time to filter in before I invite Lee on into the space. All right. So, as y'all filter in, Lee and I are going to get ready to have a very candid conversation and just give y'all everything that you need today as far as the collaboration that you all asked for. So let's do this. All right. Lee is right here. In. Mm. What's up?
Hey, what's
What's
up,
good?
Ho? What's
How are
good?
you now?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Waking up this morning, was up late. My son had me up late last night, which I said this morning.
What's
Uh,
happening? Daddy life? Just regular daddy life?
Regular daddy life. Got a hold to the phone. I thought the phone was about to go dead, and he'll fall asleep. And looked over, and the phone was way more charged than I thought it was. So he was up way later than I thought wanted him to be.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for agreeing or obliging the people. I looked up and you was just like, hey, hope they want to collab. And I was like, who? And the people.
Shout out to the people, man. Shout out to the people.
People, shouts out to the people. I'm really excited. Of course, I've seen a lot of your work. I think I started on TikTok. I think Instagram kind of caught on to you a little bit late, but your work on TikTok is super, super dope. And I think that if you all don't have a TikTok, or if you have a TikTok and don't know on TikTok, make sure y'all are following him because the content over there is like hella, hella lit. Um,
Man, appreciate it.
a lot of the conversations that you have on TikTok before we even jump into, the reason why you're really here. Because I like to be intersectional and I love the way that you break down blackness for white people who just don't get it.
Yeah.
Um, the way that you educate on that platform is so like ridiculously nuanced and so filtered through a bunch of different levels of blackness, being a black man, understanding black culture, understanding black women, understanding the diasporas of LGBT people within the spectrum. Like it's lit. So I think the first question I want to ask for the people is why, right? Why did you decide, or what happened that made you decide that you were going to get on your platform and instead of doing dances and play, like what made you decide to be an educator on your platform?
Well, when I was in college, I used to be a policy debater. You know what I'm saying? And being a policy debater, I got exposed to a lot of different literature bases, and I got exposed to a lot of dope ass people. You know what I'm saying? So when I was about like 19 at the University of Oklahoma, when I walked on to the debate team, I became very good friends with a lot of people from all over the country, a lot of like black people, and I just happened to be very good friends with a lot of black trans people, a lot of black queer people, a lot of black non-conforming people, a lot of gender fluid people. And being in a debate community, we happen to learn about a lot of literature. So through me debating and trying to win a championship, you know what I'm saying, I had to really be able to read a lot of different literature bases. And because when I was in a debate space, I was in a debate space like this,
Mm.
because it was so much in me, you know what I'm saying, I would just be pouring out. So you can go look at old tweets or old Facebook posts or old Instagram stuff from like 2012, 2011 when I was an undergrad and I was in debate. That's where it started coming from. And then when we fast forward to being a little bit more intersectional, you know what I'm saying, when I got to being about 2014, I started kind of trying to take what I was learning in debate to like to like, Instagram and things like that. And I feel like at first I was trying to like filter myself too much. I was being like robotic. I wasn't being like my natural self in terms of confident me and really want to talk my shit how I want to talk my shit. Once I got on TikTok, actually July 31st make when I've been on TikTok for a year. Once I yeah. So once I got on TikTok though, I had made one video and I only had a few hundred followers at the time, but the video had kind of went viral. So I started being like, well, shit, instead of me trying to talk with respectability and always trying to appeal to mainstream, I'm just gonna say it how I would say it if I was, you know what I'm saying, down in Bryan, Texas, talking to the homies. You feel me? So once I started saying it like that, it seemed like people started being more receptive and understanding the message. I started leaving a lot of that debate jargon alone and
Right.
started trying to use language everybody know, even though people still tell me my words be too big, but it's like, hey, this is how I talk, man. Man, they got
Look, I mean,
it.
break. I like to call them $20 words. I'm not gonna break them unless I have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
For that all the time. I'm not breaking my $20 unless I absolutely have to, unless I deem it necessary. I think that that's a tool that people can use to educate themselves. Go pick up a dictionary, look it up if you didn't understand it. But I think so when we really talk about what got stuff popping and what really made people just jump out, which I think, and let's talk about how I think that that's a little problematic because Leah's been out here educating people on Black issues for like
My phone, man.
right before you even started talking about transness or LGBTQ and queer people. You were talking about Blackness and making some very valid points, which is why I followed you before I even saw a trans video to begin with. But let's talk about what the people want to talk about, right? And
Yeah.
so you made that first trans video in solidarity with trans people, and it blew up. What was the
Yeah,
first thing
it
in
caught me
mind?
off guard.
What was
That
happening?
that video caught me off guard. I was at my sister-in-law house. My sister-in-law got a whole bunch of little Black statues. I was like, man, at that time I was making like 15 to 20 TikTok videos a day. So I was like, shit, I'm finna use this. I'm finna use this Nefertiti bus. You know what I'm saying? And then I already know I come off. I'm 6'1" African American male with dreadlocks, and I'll be talking about some pro-Black stuff. So I know the aesthetic is to be like hotel. Hotep
Right.
nigga, hotep nigga, hotep nigga. And me understanding that the real history of hotep and understanding like the contemporary stigmatization of hotep
Let them
and
know.
make you where you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Oh,
like, I'm, it's kind of sad that, you know what I'm saying, the ancestor hotep has been kind of convoluted into like this devilish stigmatization type of way to deviate and like, I feel like denigrate like Black thought, Black consciousness or whatever. I get that, but I'm not going to deny, you feel me, how the construct contemporarily of a hotep be on like some to me like some trans homo negative anti-woman. If niggas don't perform this way, they not really with it, and it's like I ain't, you know what I mean. So I
correct.
knew, so I'm not gonna cap. I knew me having that symbol in my hand was gonna catch some attention.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And what I figured out now, I'm 29, you know what I'm saying? So what I figured out now in my politics is that it always catch people off guard when I start talking about trans people,
Of course.
poor people, disabled people, you
Of
know what I'm
course.
saying? It throw them off. And I really said something simple. I feel like it's just like, hey, we pro-Black, then you gotta be pro-Black with this here too.
Period.
That's all I said, really. It was like,
So in your latest video, right, Jadena, my husband in my hand, whole husband, he just don't know it yet. We married. But Jadena reposted us about you admitting to the world, and not even admitting, but reminding the world that trans women are fucking women, right?
yeah.
And that one came out of nowhere. That one hit me by like usually I'm not surprised by your stuff, but I've been here for a minute, Lee, but when that one triggered, I was like, wait a minute, what did he just say? What did he just say to the people? So where did that one come from? Who sparked that conversation?
To be honest with you, I feel like I don't know if I was talking to, you know what I mean? I don't even, to me, I think that I was on TikTok and I had made that video about Ayana Dior in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You know what I'm saying? Them boys, goddamn, that to me, in my hood, I would have said that was some hoe ass shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that, come on. But it was somebody made a comment in it, you know what I'm saying? And to me, in my understanding, because I debated, I'm gonna think about it from a debate perspective. Somebody had said something like, they used the, you know what I'm saying, a slur, you know what I'm saying, for trans women. And then it was like, them bitches be lying. And because you feel me, I didn't travel, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't have some real deep conversations with, you know what I'm saying, with about sexuality, about attraction, about, you know what I'm saying, concerning gender identity specifically.
Correct.
So me knowing what I knew, it kind of irritated me. You know what I'm saying? So I thought about it like, well, this first 15 seconds of this video, I'm gonna say the shit that I know I grew up niggas do, and I know that I'm not trying to equate people doing fake stuff to trans, but the link to me is that you're accusing trans women of being deceptive. That's what you're accusing. That's what they're accusing, right? Would you agree?
Yes. Yes.
So my link, you know what I'm saying, in talking about fake jewelry, fake clothes, your homeboy's call, you rocking somebody else, you know what I'm saying, stacks is like you being deceptive.
Correct.
You ain't got that same energy. you feel me, when you talk about deception, especially if you want to accuse trans women of being deception, because I feel like in debate, sometimes you got to take a person's logic and throw it back at them. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, but I feel like once I started thinking about it, I'd already did a video about Selena in Chicago. I'd already did a video about her like a week or two before. So I'm thinking like, fam, you really lying? Yeah, like the comments, because the comment got like a couple likes. You feel me? It's TikTok. Comment got a couple likes. So I'm thinking like, man, knowing what I know, trans women ain't got a lot about about nothing. Most of these niggas they be killing trans women already know y'all trans, and they really just be let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of just thought like, well, the argument y'all making is y'all weaponizing biological understandings of women and gender against trans women. I recognize what's going on a meta level. So shit, let's talk about it. And that's where the video came from. And then Chef Roble, he pissed me off. You feel me? Like I don't like when my fellow straight men try to like G check me on some macho masculinity shit. They really irritate me.
Yeah, because my thing is, it felt like somebody trying to pull. The thing that bothers me is that I feel like a lot of other cishet men like to pull this bullshit, like I'm gonna pull your card and see if you really.
Like,
And I felt like that was one of those, I'm gonna pull your cards and I'm gonna let everybody else see that I pulled your card. And I'm gonna see if you really about what you're about. And I think that the extra chin check coming back from you was, nah, nigga, I said what the fuck I said. And also,
definitely.
come get this education, right? And it's not often that we have Black men who are out here speaking in solidarity with us that are willing to do that, right? We saw what happened with Malik Yoba, where at the first sign of fire, he pulled out and left us, right? It was like, oh, I love trans women. They're a part of my pool. I'm going to go on the Breakfast Club. And then the second that, instead of him re-educating himself and learning how to not just fuck us, but actually love us and stand in solidarity, he was like, I'm out because I am traumatized, right? And this could just very easily turn into a traumatizing experience for you. So I want to talk a little bit about, because I went through the comments yesterday on your page, because I know my page was going to be kosher, right? I wanted to talk about a particular comment that kind of struck out with me, which was some guy, he said that his immediate thought process when he saw the flyer was that we were a cute couple. And you were just like, no, we're not a couple. We are just doing this and I'm married, right? But I also know that you've done this research around sexuality. So what is your thought process around trans women? Are you trans amorous if you weren't married? Or is it one of those things where you haven't really thought it through because you are married?
To be honest with you, it's one of those things that I feel like I feel like I ain't gonna lie. I like being real. I feel like this is a cop out. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna preface this, you know what I'm saying, with this. But I think that when I started coming into this consciousness and really being critical about trans identities and really thinking about gender identities and, you know what I'm saying, the whole centerfold, I was married, so I didn't think about in terms of attraction and sexuality, in terms of what I'm attracted to. You know what I'm saying? Cause my wife ain't trying to hear none of that at all, right? But how I thought about it is when somebody tries to use or weaponize to me like some elementary ass understanding of sexuality against me, I just call it for that. Because you best believe you can go to the comment section and niggas like, oh nigga, you just want to be with trans women, just say it. And in my mind, I feel like that I'm old enough now. I don't think that I have to automatically get into some hyper masculinity to prove that I ain't got, you know what I'm saying? I don't think I have to do that. You know what I mean? So I think that I can be respectful in talking about trans identities. And when someone wants to be, to me, I feel like being childish or immature with me and be like, nigga, you just doing that because you trying to do this and you trying to do that. I feel like I either don't say nothing or I just address it. Like, nah, I just think that trans women should be able to exist. You feel me? Or if I'm really with the shits that day, I might play with it. Like, and if I was, would that be an issue? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's depending on what mindset I'm in, that'll be how I take it. You know what I'm saying? Before I have it.
See, I'm here for it. Oh Lord.
Before
Okay.
I've been like,
I'm here for it, but you definitely caught that plea. But I understand
yeah,
why.
I ain't
And
gonna lie.
first of all, I respect you for saying that you was gonna cop that plea before you even started the answer. But I've asked you a couple of questions. I wanted this to be conversational, and I feel like I wanted to open up the conversation because I wanted you to be able to speak to a Black trans woman on air live so that people understand that you're not just researching, right? Because there are
Yeah.
rumors that are just out. He gets on Google, he researches a couple of things, and he make a video. He don't really know what he's talking about, right? So let's see, because this is what I do all day. Let's see
Yeah.
what the questions are.
Man, my first question I have for you is being that like are you from Alabama?
Actually, no, I'm from Miami. I
From
went to
Miami?
Alabama State, and I'm actually doing a
Yeah.
little. So yeah,
With just as a it's like southerner to southerner, you know what I'm
right.
saying? Southerner to southerner. When I first got, I think like I feel like experienced or developed in the proximity to trans identity and transness, I was like on the West Coast and on the East Coast in the college, other place.
Right.
Like, what do you think is the uniqueness of being trans, like down south, especially when you was in Alabama?
I think there's a lot of, and when we say unique, there's a couple of different things that come to mind, right? So the experience of growing up, or not growing up, but like transitioning in the South is a little bit different than transitioning anywhere else. And I think that's because in the South, we have these ideologies of what women are supposed to look like based on Southern men, right? Southern men like ass and they like titties and they like hips and all of these other, frills and thrills. And so I think transitioning when you're a girl who's in the South and you have all these other girls with these bodies and these booties and these legs and the girls, the black girls in the South, even when you go to the smallest town, all of the girls are trying to do it up. And so I think transitioning while you're here is just a little bit more difficult than transitioning in places like New York or transitioning in places that are like LA, because those places aren't as superficial about the way that women have to look, right? There are so many different types of women, even in Miami. Even though it's still considered the South, there are so many different types of women that transitioning in a non-conventional way can actually, benefit you. Whereas in the South, when you're talking about Atlanta, when you're talking about certain parts of Miami, when you're talking about here in Alabama, when you're talking about Texas, when I lived there for a couple of years, there's a pressure to conform to hyper femininity. And if you don't perform it in that way, especially if you ain't blessed by the face already,
Uh-huh.
it's going to be tough, right? It's just, there's going to prove to be an issue for you. But then there's also this Southern Belle ideology that a lot of the women like to take up, which leads back into bullshit respectability politics, where a lot of trans women feel like, well, I can't talk about this, or I can't do this, or I can't blah, 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 because women don't do that, right? And so for a long time, I think a lot of trans girls that are in the South transitioning, we're tossed between two worlds, right? If you are somebody who had to engage in survival sex work, if you are somebody who had to engage in survivor sex work, it's one of those things where, okay, I'm doing this in the nighttime, but over here I'm gonna be pretending to be this person because that is what makes me a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's just a bunch of politics about Southern women that trans women ultimately try to embody so that we're not clocked for our safety. But I don't think that it's necessarily as freeing as transitioning somewhere like New York or California, where people can be gender nonconforming, or people cannot have
Yeah,
surgeries or not take hormones and still be respected. To some.
definitely, definitely. Oh, what this next question? I'm gonna set it up a little bit because I'm curious on your thoughts on it or whatever. To me, I think that a lot of people in our community usually believe that trans identities, trans people, are like some new millennial phenomenon type shit.
Mm.
So my theory tends to be is that because there's been so much history about trans women that's been kind of like, saying pushed to the side, marginalized, I think that people don't really have a respect or understanding for like trans experiences because they think that it's like a new 2020 type, thing or whatever.
Right.
Like what is like some trans history, you feel me, that you think that some people should absolutely know if they're trying to, be an accomplice or an ally to trans people?
I think first and foremost that we have to acknowledge that there are more people than just Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. I think that folks forget that there is Stormy. I think that folks forget that like ballroom culture contributed to the movement in ways that activists couldn't. So when we're talking about Octavia St. Laurent, when we're talking about the old heads and the women of ballroom, what we're missing is that deep rooted culture that you have to actually be a part of community or know the old heads of community to understand. We are forgetting to talk about Miss Major and the House of Gigi. She's still
Mm-hmm.
alive. She is still doing the work. She is still kicking. I was just on a panel with her about 2 weeks ago, and she's still a knowledgeable source of vitriol for the community. And the way that she's able to convey her stories and the way that she's able to convey the lives of trans people needs to be talked about a little bit more, right? I think that a lot of the times our history, even now that people are trying to get it, is being whitewashed by white people who don't
Yeah.
really have conversations with folks that are living, because they understand that that also means that they have to have conversations that are intersectional about white LGBT racist people.
Yeah.
Don't want to talk about the Marshas. They don't want to talk about the Stormies. They don't want to talk about Miss Major. They don't really want to talk about what's happening in media for real, outside of Pose, because they don't know anything else. And so I think that a lot of our history, especially if you watch the Disclosure doc by Laverne Cox and friends on Netflix, you see that there's a rich history of trans people and that we've always been here. We've been here since the days of the Jeffersons. We've been here on CSI Miami and New York and all these other places that we've been on your television screens. We've been living next to you. And I think that all of those things that people try to erase or try to pretend like didn't happen are just ways and nuanced ways that people try to erase the idea or the contributions that LGBT people, specifically Black trans women and trans women of color, have contributed to the world, right? Not even just our own communities, but
Mm-hmm.
the world. Without us, there would not be this overt idea of what hyperfemininity is. Without the queens, without the femme queens, without the girls, there would not be a hyper feminine sense of what it means to go and get these bodies that are ridiculous in order to survive, because you go get too much just in case,
Mm-hmm.
so that you don't have to go back and get, some more, right? And so there's a very rich history and a very rich culture around the ways in which trans women and trans people and LGBT people in general, especially Black ones, have contributed, that I think we need to unbury. We're starting to slowly do that by uncovering Bayard Rustin's story. We're slowly starting to do that by making sure that Miss Major is being seen. And we're starting to do that by reliving the stories of the ballroom kids via Pose. But there's so much more rich history that we have to disseminate to people.
Yeah. Yeah. So I ain't tripping basically. You know what I'm
No,
saying? Yeah. Okay.
not
Okay.
been here. We've been here. Let me see. Somebody asked the question. All right. So Lex Newman said, "What do you think is the best way for us to talk to men about trans issues?"
You asking me?
I mean,
I
I'm gonna let you. I'm
don't
gonna
think I'm the expert here. I think that I'm just, you feel me? I
you
think that,
on this one. You a bystander on this one?
yeah, I feel like it's smart to me. I think that I travel the country and I talk about white privilege and white supremacy and anti-blackness, right? And I
Right.
always tell white people always ask me about being an accomplice and being an ally, things like that. And I think that if you're gonna try to create space, it's important to know when to move and when to shut up. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? I think that if I'm put on a panel with a white person and this white person put on a panel with me because they able to articulate poetically how racism and white supremacy operates, but it's a panel of us and somebody asks a question that's pertaining to my social location, I don't want to hear your expertise. I don't want to hear your theory right there. I want
Okay.
to hear a real, you know what I'm saying? I will
Okay.
answer the question if you want me to answer it, like how I think, but I think that it's important to, if I'm, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I think it's important as a cisgender black man for me to know when to shut up and when to chill, you know?
I definitely, but my thing is, I think that the question was asked specifically because you are a man.
Uh, uh,
Look, let me tell you something. We do not need that. Like, this space is not a space where you have to pretend to be Barack Obama to get it kicking, right?
yeah,
People
yeah, yeah.
have to say outside of, like outside of your space and your videos. We just want to know what you think about the issues. And so I think that just what would be your best approach in talking to other cis men, maybe not about trans issues specifically, right? But just talking about respect. Like, how do you sit your homies down when they say some transphobic shit and just have that conversation?
I usually go for my debate way, and I attack the hubris that they put it in. So if they trying to be on some gangster street shit about it, I'm going to characterize it and fold it into some gangster street shit. You feel me?
Mm.
Even if they want to misgender, you know what I'm saying, whoever they talking about, I even attack it from their way. It's like, what do you get out of beating up or talking shit about a nigga in the dresses? That's what you want to call them, really. And then they usually kind of fall back, and that's when we start getting into it. What I find for my close homeboys, when I want to have real conversations with, I grew up. One of my homeboys, you feel me? Like one of my homeboys got a cousin, CJ, you know what I'm saying? And CJ grew up around us, played basketball with us, all that, you know what I'm saying? CJ's trans, and when CJ transitioned into, you know what I'm saying, being a woman, CJ's beautiful. You know what I mean? And we used to literally, when we was young, you know what I'm saying, being young and stupid, and I feel like really just I feel like hood transphobia. Niggas would come over, we'll be chilling, and it's literally, it'll be like, hey, this a picture of CJ. Hey, you think she fine, huh? We
Mm.
knowing that she's beautiful, the aesthetic, she's beautiful. We know that. You know what I'm saying? And we know our homeboy gonna be like, yeah, she fine. So I would use this as an example to talk about how to me how gender is a performance. You feel me? On, like, you know what I'm saying, how gender is performed a little bit, and how when niggas in the club, when we in the bar, you not trying to check for, you know what I'm saying, you're not asking women all these intimate questions about what's in their pants and what's on her ID and shit like that. If she fine and you had enough, you finna go that way. You know what I'm saying? So I usually think about bringing up. Hey, remember when we used to do? Hey, remember when we used to set niggas up with CJ picture and we used to try to make fun of them because we knew that CJ was attractive. Think about that now as adults, and think about that now because now I'm 29. You know, I'm 29. My partner's 28, 30. So now it's like now as adults, let's think about that. You know what I'm saying? I think that for me, being able to find ground, a stasis point, what we call it debate, but a little common ground, I think that I'm able to build on that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you able to recognize. You know what I'm saying? That, you feel me? And then I also talk about my own experiences of being at gay bars, or my own experiences of going with, you know what I'm saying, shout out to Amaya, you know what I'm saying, being able to go out with Amaya and really being able to see, you know what I'm saying, I'm a real analytical observing person, so really being able to see how people interact with bodies, and really being able to see how, like, nah, nigga, you know what's up, you feel me? Because like every person that, like, 2/3 of people that went up to her knew exactly who she was. You know what I'm saying? And it was
Right.
a lot of niggas that looked like me. So hey, I ain't never like 180. I'm talking about niggas 250. I'm talking about trying to do it how they do, trying to grab ass, all type of things. You know what I'm saying? And my mind is like, okay, I see what's going on here. So then in my mind, I think about it just in terms of performance and how we'll subscribe other genders onto a performance regardless of how a person identifies. You know what I'm saying? Like on some hood shit, niggas be like, nigga, that's some bitch shit. It's like when we say that it's some bitch shit, what are you trying, like, what are you prescribing onto that? And then I feel like my homeboys we're usually able to kind of go into a philosophical conversation, and they usually able to understand. In my opinion, when we lead the conversation, it's like, I feel good about the time that we spent in that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I said some transphobic things, if I said some problematic things, but in my mind, I'm going to meet with the homies where they at. As a matter of fact, I'm curious of what you think about that.
I actually think that some of that rhetoric is a little harmful because some of that rhetoric strikes fear in a lot of men who are still trying to deal with that internally. You never know what people are actually going through or what people are actually dealing with when you're having these conversations, right? And so I think that rhetoric of using CJ's pictures, right, back, even though it was back in the day, right, but even
Yeah,
as an example now, that is the trickery that a lot of cishet men are talking about. That
yeah,
trickery that and the deceit that a lot of men are discussing, because that deceit is used as a means to embarrass, right? That deceit is used as a means to make them feel like less of a man for not knowing.
mhm,
Um,
yeah,
for a particular situation where I was working and one of my coworkers, a cisgender woman, and we were having a conversation, and a man came in. I was working at a makeup store. A man comes in, handsome, 6 foot something, just tall, dark, and we were right next to the Pentagon. So all of the businessmen would come over. And when this black man came in, just gorgeous, he eyed me up and down. We having conversation. He flirting. Now, mind you, the girl I was working with was bad. She was cute, little 5'2" something, just fine, sexy, built, whatever. But this man was not paying her any attention. He was all up in my grill, all up in my face. And after we were done, he asked for my number. And I obliged, I gave it to him. And then when he left, I could tell she felt away. And I was like, well, what's the issue? She was like, well, Hope, can I break it down for you for real, for real? And I was like, yeah, let's go there. And she told me that she feels like if he doesn't know that I'm trans, that says something about him. And I told her that it says something about you, about the way that you see me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those things create stigmas, because my thing is, her going back to someone, or maybe even has she gone back and told him, like, oh, you know she's trans, right? Based on her own insecurities about not feeling seen by him, that could have been detrimental. And so the same picture sort of ideal that you all were doing with CJ, those things might spark something in men that make them feel like they then have to justify or defend themselves. Now,
Oh yeah.
dude, and I
Oh
told
yeah.
like, hey, I'm trans, and he was no longer interested. But it was a principle for her that he didn't know. And she even felt like I was deceiving him by not telling him in that moment. And I was like, well, this man is like 6 foot something, 200 and something pounds, like you were describing. And I told him in the store, he had a breakdown and smacked me. Were you going to help me with your 5'2" self?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that it's just being very mindful about the ways in which we do convey those messages. And oftentimes, I think the best way to talk to men about these issues and talk to men about transness is about reminding men that trans people are people, first and foremost, right? Before we are trans women, before we're women, before we have all of this oppression, we are simply people. Treat folks as they treated. And I think that prefacing things with that makes people realize that, yeah, we are talking about a human being. Regardless of how I feel, we're talking about a person, right? And no person. I think that usually when you bring personhood and you bring humanity to the situation, people tend to like lower their guard, even only but a little bit.
Even though but a little bit.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, when I use the example of talking about CJ with the homies, there is usually a couple levels, that's what I would call it, a couple levels of defensiveness that you have to get through. Because usually when I bring it up, because we used to do it with, like, literally, I'm talking about like 6, 7, 8 homeboys. So you have to get past the point of talking about, so we understand this is wrong, right? We understand how we was weaponizing someone's identity against, like pretty much getting what you're getting at. You know, so I want to make sure that like when I use that, because in my mind, I want to, as an educator, I like to use real examples.
Correct.
But I also like to unpackage the problematicness of the things that I'm unpackaging, right? So in my mind, as a cis man, why I like using an example, because I feel like it humanizes myself a bit. It shows that I've not always been this great expert about what I'm talking about. It acknowledges that I started somewhere, and that I had to go somewhere. I had to study, spend hard conversations, reflect on being the bad person, reflect on being oppressive, reflect on making people, you know what I'm saying, feel bad, and then kind of work through it. And I feel like, to me, I think that when it comes to social issues, where you're talking about race, class, gender, ability, sexuality, to me, it seems that people have a hard time being the bad person. Gotcha. Or being the person that's like, no, you being oppressive. And I think that sometimes it's hard for people to acknowledge, like, damn, I'm being oppressive that way. How can I not be? Because usually it's like, no, I'm not. No, I didn't. But I ain't mean it that way. But I ain't do it that way. It's like, but damn, what happened? What's the result? And I think that's the.
So I wanted to put the question up here because I never want people to feel slighted, and I love Cherry. But Cherry said, "Have you ever been openly with a trans woman?" I can't answer that question for you, but I still wanted Cherry to feel seen in this space. But also, I want to just stay away from asking questions about or surrounding just attraction, because I think my biggest conversation that I wanted to have with Lee. But first of all, he is married. He's not gonna say nothing that's gonna get him a divorce because of y'all. Okay, leave.
Not at all, man. I'm trying to educate. I appreciate the compliments, y'all. I definitely do. I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying?
But I want to talk about why you think the Black community, right? Why do you think the Black community has why is there such a disconnect between Black people and especially Black trans women, right? We don't see we're not seeing a bunch of superseding hate the way that we used to see for Black gay men or lesbian women. Like we're not seeing that fire that we used to see for those groups anymore, but we are seeing a lot of hate towards Black trans women. Do you think that it's because of the visibility that we're getting because of Pose and Laverne and like all of the people making moves, like, or is it a deeper issue? What do you think that it's about?
I think it's both. I think it's a deeper issue and it's tied to the visibility. I really believe that a lot of people in our community, you know, I like to say lost in the sauce. I feel like are really lost in the sauce of Western constructs of gender. And I think that because they see the world changing and people becoming more visible, they see it as being, because Pose is on TV and because now children are able to see LGBTQ things, this is pushing trans identities onto our kids, and this is where this is bad. And in my mind, it's like, if there's always, I hate to say it like this is what I think, right? I just say it plain terms. I think that when people don't have shit and they used to being dominated, sometimes they'll define their identity in terms of the ability to dominate, right? And I think that from most Black people, especially cis people, cis women and cis men, I think that some of us kind of invest in our cis identities with the ability to be able to be centered, with the ability to have some type of normativity, with the ability to dominate. And I think that a lot of cis people, men and women, don't like to admit that we literally lost in the sauce of Western constructs of gender, and we really believe that it's always already binary, and we really believe that whatever the European settlers told us about how we should perform and about how, you know what I'm saying, like how sex is assigned at birth, this what this mean, this, that, and the other. I mean, we got to be like this and we got to be like that. I think that that's really how they think about it. So I believe when you're able to add religion, I mean, you from the South, so we know how the Bible will get thrown into it, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, and this, that, and the other, and this, that, and the other, right? So once you're able to take, to me, a highly religious people that are also oppressed, and you add that together, I feel like it adds a nasty kind of complex investment and attraction to domination into denying the existence of trans people. Because in my mind, it's like, if you supposed to be like, you know, go back to Africa type shit, you know what I'm saying? Like pro-Black, let's go back to Africa. In my mind, it's like, you're going to do that research and go find that there are presence and experiences of trans people, of queer people, of gay people before European, you know what I'm saying, engagement. So I think that a lot of people tend to think that white supremacy has cornered the market on homosexuality, trans identities, queerness, and all that. So they believe that the white people are pushing it on us. And what I've learned from, I feel like, it's being a Southerner and not being an academic like I used to be, and now talking with more like everyday people, it's a lot of conspiracy theories involving, you know what I'm saying, gender and agendas and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? And what I usually able to tell people is like, hey, you do know that if you go to like the 1960s, when Black folks started to be more present in the economy and society and politics and TV, you know, the white folks are saying it's a nigger agenda. You know what I'm saying? They trying to push it on us.
Right.
You know, they trying to push our identity on us. You know what I'm saying? In my mind, it's that same gatekeeping, you feel me? That's what I mean by being invested in domination, you feel me? And I think that it's a lot of people in our community just like, hey, shit, well, at least I can tell that person they ain't me.
Right.
You ain't a woman, you ain't a man.
Right,
and
right.
Like,
there's the idea of the oppressed becoming the oppressor, and a lot of people hold on to that, and a lot of people live for that because there's somebody smaller than them that they can squash underneath.
It's somebody I can dominate. It's somebody I can dominate. It's somebody I can dominate. I get my humanity denied, I can deny your humanity. Like, hurt people. And too, I ain't making no excuses. It's not a cop-out for Black people to be transphobic, to be homophobic, I'm not making no cop-outs at all. I'm just, to me, I think that there is a psyche behind it, and I think that I'm just giving an analysis to what I think, how it operates. Again, this is not a plea. It's not a cop-out. It's not an excuse. It's not like, well, this is the reason why they can do it. Like, hell nah. I think that we should all work towards being able to free us all, because we all can't be free if one of us ain't. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so as a Black man who has this rhetoric and this thought process, you have children, right?
Yeah.
Know how you think about the issues, but what we don't know is in a union, right? I'm not even sure if you can speak on this, because I know some people don't like to speak for their spouse. But when we're talking about your son, right, that's the golden goose of Black men. When we're talking about your son come home and the same people that you're advocating for, your son is like, I'm one of those people.
Me and my wife all the way 1,000 with it. We ain't got like the sex that our kids got assigned for my daughter and my son got assigned at birth. If they, when they start coming out to be themselves, identifying themselves, this is what I learned. Like a lot of indigenous cultures before European engagement, they didn't start gendering humans until like they were 4 or 5 years old when they were able to perform it. And these a lot of these are a lot of the tribes that practice. There were up to 4 to 7 different genders, right? So in my mind, it's like, yeah, I named them Zane, I named her Israel. But if they tell me something else, then shit, it's something else. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that I wasn't raised by no deadbeat. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't raised by no deadbeat. So whatever the 2 kids that I birthed, them my kids. You feel
Oh,
me? Whatever they decide, however whoever they decide to love, however they decide to love, however they decide to identify, I'm 1,000 with it. Like, ain't no issue at all, none at all.
so while we're doing that, let's talk about the Boosie situation because I don't think I caught your thoughts on that one. How did you feel about Boosie going after Dwayne Wade's parenting style with Zaya? What were your thoughts on that one?
Man, I was pissed off because I'm a big Boosie fan. I was big irritated because I'm a big Boosie fan. As a matter of fact, as a college debater, one of my first big debates I won with a Boosie rap. If you don't know my struggle, you can't feel my hustle. So
Mm.
because I use Lil Boosie as what I would call an organic intellectual, I was really let down by what he said. But how I attacked it was I thought it was very hypocritical because I'm a Boosie fan. I heard about the shit he done rapped for Lil Tootie. You know what I'm saying? He talked about Lil Tootie getting, you know what I'm saying? He rapped about Lil Tootie getting head when he turned 13. And when he turned 13, I'm going to get him head at his birthday party. So in my mind, it was like, you are being contradictory in how you constructing what it means to be a parent. And I also believe I seen it as being across the board ignorance, that I believe that a lot of people have a very classist understanding of trans peoples. So it's like, hey, peep game, bro. Gabrielle or Dwayne did not tell y'all that there was gonna be no gender conflict like that. That ain't gonna be nothing. They ain't say nothing about no transition. They said that Zaya is Zaya, and they gonna be parents and respect their daughter for being Zaya and raise Zaya. And you know what I'm saying? That's what they said. Y'all putting all this extra stuff into it. To me, it's like it's textbook transphobia because now you're showing me you're constructing something to fear. You feel me? It's like in my mind, like, hey man, I don't know. I don't now you correct me if I'm wrong, Hope, because I might be talking outside of my neck.
Okay.
Doctors not finna, you not finna get no saying transition surgery, and as no youngster, huh?
Not until you're 18, babes.
Not until you're 18. Listen, man. Listen, this is simple facts. Facts over feelings. You feel me? And that's the reason why this to me, this is what I was. It's like, come on, Boosie. You putting extra, you putting words in, fam. You putting words in. That's
I,
not what that is.
but
And two, it's like, hey, Avi, your daughter, like, fam. In my mind, it's like, now I don't, you know what I mean? You got a lot going over there, Boosie. You need to, you know what I'm saying?
there's, there's a lot to unpack there. I think that what we are most afraid of is that they have to learn to be people feel like or fear that they're gonna have to learn to be tolerant without giving a choice about whether or not they're gonna have to be, right? They feel
Yeah.
are going to start living so authentically in their truths that there's not going to be this 3% margin of transgender people. And pretty soon you're going to have to not care because people are just going to be out here living, right? And 1 in 3 people that you talk to are going to be trans. And you're just going to have to deal. And I think that that scares people that they can no longer have a group of folks to beat up on or to oppress or to make them feel small because those people are going to inherently be a part of their dating pool. They're going to be a part of their everyday life. They're going to be a part of their workforce. And I think that especially in Black culture, there's this need for us to always other people because we have been so othered by white folks, and that's just never the answer. So that's not the way that the answer that it will. And I've just never been here for it. So I want to open the space again. Do you have, because I think hearing from you, especially as a Black man, and trying to understand what it is that you need from us, right? So if there are any questions that you have for me, like I definitely want to open the floor for that because it's easy to stand with and stand on the side of folks
Mm-hmm.
with just the information presented in Google, right?
Yeah.
Information presented via life experience of friends. But what is not easy to do is not have that access to people to be able to say, Hope, I feel like I fucked up. Like my friend Tahoe is quick to call me and be like, Hope, I feel like I fucked
Yeah.
up. What do I do? My friend Orlando is quick to be like, hey, Hope, check this out for me real quick, you know? And so late, oh, oh, oh.
You talking to me, baby? I was talking to my son.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Keys.
But question I gotta ask you, I thought it's kind of a bit of a nerdy question, a little bit, but I feel like I need a better, I think I need a better way to illustrate that gender is non-binary without kind of folding intersex people into a conversation about recognizing trans people, right? I recognize that intersex and trans, two different things. I recognize that, right? Because though I feel like I lack understanding of trying to literally be like, hey, it's non-binary. It's more than just this and this, and you know what I'm saying. Without like, I feel like I don't want to be deceptive or manipulative and or be, you feel me, misleading when I talk about intersex people in a conversation of trying to say binaries doesn't exist. We're talking about trans people. You get my question? Like, is it a better way? I feel like it's got to be a better way.
To be perfectly honest, I think that there's an umbrella term, right? There's an umbrella that white LGBT people have created that sort of loops in trans people's issues with the other issues of people in the community, because they understand that the most marginalized of trans people are Black trans women. And so it's the same thing as the POC guys. I hate the whole POC thing because POC just eliminates the struggles of Black people.
Mm-hmm.
Act like they can't see us, and
it's a new ass way to say colored people. Stop playing.
It's a new ass way to say people, but then also exclude Black people from the colors. You know, like, and that's the shit that I can't rock with the POC thing, because usually, especially when you go to these jobs now, it's like, oh, we have a person of color on staff, but they ain't Black.
Yeah, they ain't Black.
And it's just like, I can't with the person of color thing. And I think that in some ways it's very hard for me to get with the trans umbrella thing, just because there's an understanding that they're doing that so that trans Black women fall at the lowest of the totem pole.
Yeah.
And Hispanic trans women, you know, lowest of the totem poles as well. And they can focus on other things. However, I will say that I think the best thing to do would be to talk to someone who is intersex or non-binary. India Moore is one of my good friends. Alok is another really great person to talk to. They're both like really beautiful knowledges or reservoirs of information, actually, because yesterday was
non-binary day.
Yeah, non-binary, gender non-conforming day. They both actually posted some really amazing things that you might want to look at as a resource.
Yeah, we'll look at it.
I am not non-binary. So
yeah, that's real.
But I can tell you that I think that the reason for your confusion is based on that bullshit ass umbrella term that they've created to once again suppress the voices of Black and brown trans women for their own gain, right?
Yeah.
And it's just as simple as that. It really is.
Hey, and with that being said too, because she just said something very important, I think. As a quote unquote public intellectual,
okay,
I recognize that niggas have like a high level of suspicion for things that white liberals try to like push us, right? I think that we have to be very mindful that we don't kind of push these erasures on our own people because we believe that white liberals trying to dupe us into something, right? With that being said, it's like, I think that it's very, very, very important to understand that like the whole LGBTQ umbrella is not just like some liberal shit that Black LGBTQ people have to run up under. Cause it's like what I know is like Audre Lorde and Angela Davis and James Baldwin and Bayard Rustin, and I can keep on naming. It's like, hey, these real people that contributed to the liberation of Black folks. You know what I'm saying? And they was real revolutionaries. You know what I'm saying? Don't start folding in who they is on being like, that's that liberal shit. You know what I'm saying? I just made this, that's not for you, that's for the people. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that a lot of times our people do that, and I think that it puts a lot of people in weird positions.
That's the thing for me. I'm always a big advocate of making sure that Black history remains Black history and that our LGBTQ history is a part of that Black history versus it being the other way around. I
Exactly.
room for us to discuss LGBT people within Black history versus us adopting or just solely taking on this idea that we are queer, that we're LGBTQ, and that we fall under these guidelines of GLAAD and HRC and all these other
Yeah.
$1 million fucking organizations that don't really give a shit about us. And so I'm glad that you flagged that because there's a bunch of concerns around the ways in which white people weaponize or use their degrees
Hey,
to make.
anti-blackness is real. And you know what I'm saying? You know, anti-blackness is real. Shout out to the LGBT community that's also structured by what? Anti-blackness.
Huh. So some of these questions that you all are asking are just they're more me questions.
Yeah,
They're
yeah. I got 5 minutes too. I got 5 minutes at 11:55. I gotta get ready to start teaching. I gotta
so,
teach. Shout out to everybody at the Michigan Debate Institute. You know what I'm saying? We're getting ready to talk about constructing them apps today. You feel me?
so in your last 5 minutes, Lee, I think that this is one of the good questions for my sister class. What do you think needs to change with Black men to acknowledge the existence of Black trans women openly?
I think that we have to unlearn the ways that we have conditioned ourselves to make it where masculinity always this aggressive, brute type thing. I think that because we have such rigid understandings of what it means to be a real nigga, what it means to be a man, what it means to be, you feel me, a stand up guy. I think
Yeah.
that because it's structured by so much parasitic things to Black women, to Black trans women, to queer, like to, I think that to even parasitic to other men, right? I think that I feel like as a Black man that has never really performed my masculinity in the way that the hood say I should, I
Okay.
think that we have to always be mindful of how when we create these very rigid gender constructs, especially just for Black men, it really makes it where it creates a lot of violence for everybody that doesn't meet or doesn't conform with that. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like what I like to do with, you know what I'm saying, with I feel like especially now anime is cool. I feel
Mhm.
like being somebody that's a 90s person, the niggas used to be anime, used to walk around with their hands, you know what I'm saying, like an airplane and stuff. Used to be like, oh, we're, you know what I'm saying? In my mind, though, now we're starting to have a better understanding for the multiplicity of Blackness. And I think that the rise of different representations of Black men being able to be, you know, emo, being able to be weird, being able to be into these different things, I think that it's allowing for us to kind of broaden the spectrum of what it means to be Black men. And I really believe that a lot of people that be trying to kill and dominate trans women, they really got a lot of insecurities in themselves that they kind of trying to deal with. And I think that because they having very cathartic ways of dealing with it, it a lot of times comes out in denial of somebody else's, you know what I'm saying, existence. Because you got to think about it like this. A nigga coming to me like, George Lee, you ain't this, you ain't that, what's up? Ready to fight or ready to shoot, you feel me? And you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? This literally based off of how we're performing our masculinity, and they feel like the way I'm performing my masculinity make them feel some type of way. And you know what I'm saying? I think that it starts with like us, literally. Like,
So my last question, because I have to ask it, I think that we all love your videos, we all love your words. But do you have anything in the works that is actually set up to help further or better the lives of Black trans women or trans women of color that you speak so avidly for? Is there anything in the works that you're doing to help raise money or any organizations that you're lending your voice to ensure the safety of Black trans women? And if there isn't, will you do it now because I brought it up?
right now, what I've been working on is because I've been getting so much attention for talking about trans women. I have been making a conscious effort to make sure I create meaningful relationships with trans women and be able to do things like this to show that it's not just what people think I didn't Google something and just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, hey, this me. This who I am. This who I am on and off the screen. And you know what I'm saying? Really just trying to, in my opinion, what I'm trying to do with Black stuff, I know that there are Black trans women trying to do that with, you know what I'm saying, Black trans women stuff. And in my mind, it's like, I want to create space and then get out the way. You know what I'm saying? That's really in my mind. That's what I'm supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? It's like I've been gifted with this blessing, this gift of being able to speak, So if I can get people to look at me, I think that there are amazing people that are doing amazing work that I think that a lot of people are sleeping on or don't know about. And I think that now I have the platform to be able to give, you know what I'm saying, some of that light with that. But I'm definitely down to get down with some fundraising causes. I'm down to, you know what I'm saying, get down with an organization. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not, yeah, I'm really, however I can be more than just the educator. What's up?
Not you about a dress. It's already done. Say less. All right, King. Thank you so much for popping in. Thank you so much for giving the people what they wanted. Thank y'all, the people, for making sure that Lee knew that this was a thing, because I damn sure didn't. And until next time, we will talk to y'all later. Lee got to go be a teacher.
Yeah, holla at y'all, man.
So thank you so much, and we will talk later.
Oh yeah, GeorgeLeeSpeaks.com if you're interested in, you know what I'm saying, reaching out. Anyway, you know what I mean, GeorgeLeeSpeaks.com.
Okay.